All right, guys, welcome to this is going to be Bad Company podcast number one. I'm Andrew. This is Levi. Um, we decided to kind of give the podcast space a go in our own way, and this is going to be number one. So, you want to kick us off, Levi? Tell us a little bit about the pod, what we're planning on doing.
Yeah, right on. So pretty much the pod is going to be me and Andrew, intentional conversation, um, personal growth, kind of talk about some things that we got going on our schedules, uh, reflections, things like that.
Yeah. I think we wanted to discuss also where the name came from at the beginning. It was a personal project that I have been working on the side for a while, on and off, and this would be a great add-on to it. So, Bad Company in general came from an idea where I was uh, talking with one of our mutual friends in the past about maybe doing a podcast, and we struggled a lot with the name, and then kind of stumbled upon Bad Company, and it kind of came from a place of not good, in the hopes that it would turn into something good. So Bad Company came from me having a thought process of oh, we always listen to podcasts. Like me and my roommate Levi, we all listen to podcasts and we all listen to these great people talk. But why would anyone ever want me on a podcast? Everyone has an opinion, but it's not that your opinion doesn't matter, but you're not necessarily saying something of value. So I just immediately thought, I was like, man, I'm Bad Company. No one would ever ask me on their podcast. And so in a weird way, I was like, oh, that's a cool name, Bad Company. You could kind of flip the coin from Bad Company to slowly turn into like good company in the sense of like badass company. But that's kind of where it came from. And we're hoping to kind of use this platform in more of a selfish manner to have deeper conversations with, like each other about topics that we enjoy along the lines of growth. But I don't think any of us or either of us are going into this with intentions of like financial freedom or as our sole job. I think we just want to be able to discuss topics on a higher level and then maybe also be able to have conversations with other people who might bring interesting perspectives in or who have a completely different job or title that we're interested in talking about in regards to growth. So I think that's where we're coming from with this podcast in general. And we're going to kick it off today to talk a little bit about me and Levi, what we've had going on this year, what we plan on doing next year, and then it'd be a little more focused on, I would say, running this podcast.
Yep.
Just because that's what we've been doing a lot of this year. But let's kick it off by talking about MOAB, because I know MOAB's a bit of a spicy topic for me and a great topic for you. So why don't you kick it off? What did you think about going into MOAB, and then what were your thoughts like after finishing MOAB?
Yeah, so MOAB was one of probably my most favorite race that I've ever done. Full marathon. I love the trip. I love MOAB. Never been there before. We had a fun trip, But yeah, I did everything that I wanted to do in that race. I also really liked just kind of like the beginning or the start, I want to say. Like, no, I know it's like, because this was your first marathon. So you don't know, anything else. But at this trail marathon, there was no audience allowed no spectators at the start line, which I thought was kind of cool because I felt a lot more relaxed. When we kind of got there, there's some fires going. It was still dark. And I don't know. I felt pretty relaxed. How did you feel with all that?
Like at the beginning?
Yeah.
I felt weirdly relaxed. Like I did not think that. I think you know why I was like on edge, but it wasn't about the race itself. Like the race itself, I felt like I was happy to be there.
Dude,
I was happy to be there because I had never been in that environment. Like I've run, I think I had told you this. I've run 24 plus miles before, 26 plus miles before, but never put myself in a race environment because I didn't really. I always thought I wouldn't get anything out of it. Like I was like, oh, it's a race. That's cool. You have to pay to race. Why wouldn't I just go run? And I felt different at that than I think I would feel if I was at a road race because it was cool. You get there, completely dark outside. There's fires. Everyone's just on the same page. I think that's it's a cool feeling. And I underestimated how I would feel like being there and in that environment. And I wasn't nervous. I was anxious, I think. Okay. I was like, I wanted to start. That, I think, it wasn't like nervous running the race. I was just ready to start.
Yeah.
I was anxious about how it would go, but I don't think I was like nervous to run. I just wanted to start. I just wanted to run.
Yeah, I had a lot of adrenaline going, and then going into the race, mile one, I'm just like, this is awesome. The terrain was insane and kind of like, kept you guessing the whole time because a lot of it was rocks, sand.
The sand threw me off.
A lot of climbing, a lot of stepping down and stuff like that. I will say that was like the first run where, because I hear all the time about people like they talk about downhill races and things like that, like it messes up your knees and stuff like that. It takes a toll. I've never had any like experience with that. With this race, the amount of like jumping down onto rocks that we did the first 13 miles, and then feeling how that impacted my legs physically going into the second half of the race was like nothing like I had experienced before.
I have a thought on that, and you can tell me what you think. So take me, slower pace, right? And then you, faster pace. I did not use the downhills to my advantage. I felt like I was trying to slow myself down as I was running downhill, and I think it made me feel like I was taking way more impact. But if you have like the cardio, the stamina, and like the legs for it, and you use it to your advantage, and you just like not full send it, but like you kind of lean into it and go downhill, I feel like you take less of an impact on your knees. And for me, it's like leaning back, and each step is just like you're trying to slow down while you're running downhill. I hadn't thought about that before.
Yeah, that's interesting. I don't know, like the science behind that, but I get what you're saying. I feel like both you're taking the impact, but yeah, when you try to slow down, I feel like you're using a lot more.
It's like force.
Yeah,
it's just, or if it's like shooting,
you're going against gravity.
Yeah.
Rather than like, less time with like the contact of your foot in the terrain.
Yeah.
When you're like just going with it. That's interesting. But yeah, dude, after like mile 15, the way my legs felt, I thought, and like I literally thought to myself, it's impossible for me to go any faster. This is going to be the pace that like I'm going to take it in from here.
Yeah.
There was that huge hill that was a mile and a half.
That was so cool. I loved that actually.
Mile 14 was just all uphill, steep uphill, which me and you,
I thrived on that. It was a downhill. The downhill destroyed me. The uphills, I was moving.
Yeah, I passed a lot of people uphill. That was the best part of the race, I think, physically for me too. And I was like,
feels good.
Incline Mondays, man, they paid off.
Yeah. Right so if you follow me on Instagram and you've been giving me shit, paid off. Paid off. It paid off in a big way. I didn't expect to do that well.
Absolutely. It was a tough course, like really tough course. But yeah, once we got past that point, that's when I kind of felt everything in my knees and my inner legs, and I was like, oh my goodness.
The slick rock, dude. The slick rock was so bad.
Yeah.
That's when it just, like you were saying, it's just everything built up because it was just pounding. That's the way it felt. It's just like your feet slapping on the ground the whole like 15 miles after that.
Yeah. So why I loved this race so much was not only because it was so scenic, but with trail races, it's interesting because you can't really pace yourself, or like you can't really be like, oh, this is gonna be my pace going into it. Um, like you can on a road marathon or any road race, you can train to be at a certain pace. This one, trail races in general, you can't because it's so unpredictable. So it's really just like a race, like you're racing people. Um, a lot of moments felt like it's me versus this guy kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I think that's why I had such a great time, especially after that incline that we were talking about. There was nobody around me at that point, mile 15, 16. Couldn't see anybody ahead of me, couldn't see anybody behind me. And I was like, okay, I think I'm in a pretty decent spot right here. My legs were just in shambles. And so I was like, the goal here from here on out is keep moving and follow the ribbons. Don't get off track. And I got kind of comfortable right there.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when things started to get interesting because I got passed, and then that kind of pissed me off. And then I was me and another runner were kind of like passing each other, one after the other. And then there's more runners coming up, and then we're also, next thing you know, there's like 6 or 7 runners, people that caught up, and also people that like us as a pack kind of caught up too. And then everyone's just kind of battling it out because all those guys up there, they didn't want to get past. Nobody wanted to get past at that point. Last 10 miles of the race. So I had a lot of fun with that. And then once, I got to mile 17, 18, one of the workers or the volunteers tells me, you're number 20 right now. And then I was like, top 20 sounds good.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to, I want to stay in the top 20. I don't want to get past and finish 23, 24, 22, whatever. I was like, gotta stay in the
because now it's in your head,
right?
So get a number.
So a few miles before that, I was just talking about how I felt like I couldn't go any faster, and once I got past, I was like, oh no, I can go faster. So a lot of pushing it, and then toward the end, got really interesting and competitive with the people that were near me, and so yeah, I finished 15, and that felt really good. I feel like I was bolting the last 5K. I felt like I was running 6-minute miles.
Oh yeah,
but I wasn't. But I felt like I was, and then so it was good because I loved how much I realized there's more. Like there's more in the tank than you think. And I think not every race you can kind of realize that. And yeah, so it was just fun. And yeah, that while being so scenic, and I personally, I just felt like I left it all out there and ran my best race. So I was really happy with that. But yeah, so I want to hear more about you. Your first marathon, which is huge. You finished. Obviously, you had some things going on.
Yeah, I hate saying
you got to have a lot of mixed emotions.
Yeah, I do.
So,
but I will say, like on to tag on like what you were talking about, I haven't had something, and going into that race, I was like, it was supposed to start my prep for Leadville. Like that was the whole point, was to start my prep for Leadville in a better spot than I did last year. And for those of you that don't know, last year I really like messed up I had hip and knee problems going into it. My prep last year when I tried to do Leadville, and I just destroyed myself during the prep. So this year I wanted to give Leadville another go, and I was like, I'm going to start my prep in a much better place, that being, post marathon. And so I kind of had intentions going into it of just going to run, going to finish, and then the race started, and I was like, oh, I can't just run. I need to pass as many people as I possibly can, which was a huge problem. Like one thing I learned about like marathons is, or like what I could maybe bring next year is that I want to be in heat 1 or 2 because it slowed me down significantly like on the little like single paths for going up those rocks, like the first 8 miles. But anyway, so I had Achilles problems going into the race, and it didn't really pop up until like 2 or 3 weeks beforehand. And I didn't know it was Achilles problems. Like I was stretching my calf out. One day it would feel good, and the next it would be like sharp. And then I started to baby it about a week and a half before the race, and it felt like it got a lot better. And so going into it, I was kind of just like, man, I hope my Achilles is fine. I hope it just like holds off. It was a really hard course to hope that your Achilles, like there was so much incline, decline, where like if you were to press off your foot, it would be in an already like stretched, loaded position, which is virtually impossible when you have a messed up Achilles. And for the first 9 miles, I felt it, but I was like, I'm cruising. I was passing people like fuck, dude. I was flying way faster than I thought I would do. I was probably running at a slightly slower pace than you. And my goal was one of my clients, Jared, was running in the heat before me. And Jared's, I wouldn't say super fast, but he's just endurance, man. He'll just last forever. My goal was just to catch him and then pass him. And then, the out and back where you had to go get the stamp.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like halfway on the out and back to go to the stamp, and Jared passed me on the halfway of finishing the stamp, and I was like, I'm getting close, because you know how much distance that is. That was like 0.5 miles away. So I wanted to get the stamp and go. He'd be 0.5 miles away. And then I got my stamp, and then when I got halfway back, it just went completely. I think that was like mile 11 maybe. And I was like hobble running at mile 11. And then while I was running, it did not help that this girl was running next to me. And it was like the flat, where you could just like cruise on the road. And she was like, just started chatting me up. She was like, is this your first time running MOAB? And I was like, this is my first marathon ever. And she ended up saying like, good luck. But like at the beginning, she goes, oh boy. She was like,
oh boy.
Nice one to choose for your first marathon.
Real encouraging.
Yeah. So basically, I don't need to go into a whole lot of detail, but the rest of the race, it was just me mainly running on my left foot, and then like any incline, I had to like land my right foot a certain way. So I couldn't actually just like run normal step after step. And anytime I would step down, it was a deep step, I had to land on my left foot. So it was just like, 15 miles of just misery. It was so bad. Like it was so bad. And then all the slick rock, it all just went into the inside of my left knee because I was having to use my left leg. It was a disaster. I won't lie. It was a disaster. But it was competitive in a sense that, I've had some time to think about it and look back. And I know I have a good headspace. I'll put it that way. Like I feel like I know I have a really solid headspace when it comes to that, because that was maybe the worst possible way that my first marathon could go. But I know I can grind. Like I know I can suffer. That's one thing I think I'll take some value in. And I've told people I can do, and I think I proved it at that race that I can just suffer.
Yeah.
But it was competitive versus myself, and not
sure.
from your standpoint where it was like you versus someone else.
Yeah.
So I was super, super pissed for 15 miles because I knew I wouldn't catch Jared.
Yeah.
I couldn't be competitive, and I couldn't keep my pace anymore.
Yeah.
Just because my legs were letting me down. My heart was fine. My heart rate was great, but I just couldn't compete, and I didn't expect myself to want to compete in that race. And all I wanted to do once I started was compete. And so it gave me like a taste of how like I just feel like I know how to move forward now, or like next race I'm gonna want to compete. Like I'm gonna want to. I don't think I'll beat you next race, but I'm gonna try. Like next MOAB, it's just gonna be 100% in my mind of like how good can I place.
Absolutely. I'm going for top 10 next year.
I'll probably go for top 9.
I'm going top 10, but not 9 or 10.
But like that's what I'm saying. I had no intentions of doing that when I first started that race. Yeah. The second I started, I was like, I can't cruise this. It's just not. And I haven't had anything that triggered that in a long time. Like when's the last time something triggered you to be super competitive? Sports? like college or high school.
Oh, you mean like outside of running?
Yeah,
Yeah, for sure. Sports.
like nothing has just like lit me up like that in a while. And the second that race started, that's all I wanted to do.
Yeah, and that sucks. But at least I will say, like, one, that takes a lot of mental strength. So you have to be, especially now, being able to like reflect on it and stuff. You got to be feeling good. The fact that you can get through that with a bum ankle or Achilles, like that course was unforgiving.
Yeah,
It got hot.
It just made me feel like a failure. I won't lie. Like the first couple of weeks, I felt like people would ask me like, "Oh, how'd it go?" That was the conversation I wanted to have
For sure.
Because you're not focused on that. You're focused on like, where'd you place? What was your time?
You had expectations. Yeah, you wanted to be like, this is gonna go well, and like that's any sporting event. Anything can happen. Things usually don't go as planned. At least you had an idea. You were battling that going in, so you knew at some point you were gonna have to deal with that for the race. Yeah, I mean, you probably gained so much mental strength, like confidence out of that, and like at least it was an injury, honestly, rather than um, something else, or like you being healthy and like giving your all and being disappointed in yourself about something else. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Like injuries suck. It's a part of competitive sports, and shit just happens.
Yeah.
But you get healthy, you come back, and
we're back.
Yeah, exactly.
We're back.
There you go.
But it's made me want to like. I would sign up yesterday for mine.
Yeah.
Just so I can compete.
Yeah, you will. Yeah. There's some unfinished business over there.
Oh, it's just filled with unfinished
business. I'm excited for you. I'm excited for me.
Yeah.
I'm excited to go back over there and run that race.
If I don't start the race with tarps off, then I'm doing something wrong. Like my prep wasn't good enough.
Yeah. Were you tarps off?
No, dude. I had a vest. I would have died.
Oh yeah, you had a vest. Yeah. Me and David
had a vest.
Me and David started. We were the only ones that popped the top.
I know. Yeah, I know. I watched everyone go. It was in the last heat.
Oh man. Well, yeah. I'm excited for that.
So what do you like? I know we've talked about it, but we can discuss it a little bit. Like that's given me a taste for, racing and maybe some things outside of what I thought I'd do this year. But let's talk a little bit about what we got going on this year race wise. What are you looking for 2024?
Yeah, so not gonna lie, 2024, MOAB did something to me, kind of sparked something in me. I want to go into this next year. I want it to be my best running year ever. I started training for marathons in 2019, and I ran 3 marathons that year. Qualified for Boston that year. Didn't end up happening because of COVID, but I PR'd, all that. The great year, and I don't want that to be my peak. So this upcoming year, I want it to be my best running year. Obviously, I have the that we've talked about. That's why it's obvious. But the relay I got accepted into, so that's going to be a whole different challenge because that's not a marathon race, but that's something that I'm super excited about.
Well, go ahead and like expand on what that is, like what race you're doing, and kind of why it's important to you.
Yeah. So MS Run the US is the name of the organization. They've been doing this since 2013. It's 21 runners. It's an ultra relay across America. It's like 3,200 something miles total, divided between 21 runners. So they select 21 runners every year. Starts in Santa Monica, California, ends in New York. I got chosen this year after a few interviews and applying and all that to run segment 8, which is 171 miles from Steamboat Springs to Denver, Colorado, right here. So that's what I'm going to be doing. The whole point of this relay is to raise awareness, support, and research for multiple sclerosis. So each runner has a goal of raising $10,000 that goes directly to multiple sclerosis research and support. So yeah, I'm excited about that. My dad was diagnosed with MS in 2010. So that's the whole reason I applied. I found out about it on social media. This guy, Logan Locke, I think I told you, he's a sponsored athlete from BPN. And I came across his profile somehow and saw the MS stuff and got interested and ended up applying. And yeah, now here I am. So in May of 2024, I'll be doing that. That's going to be like the biggest thing on my calendar. After that, I am hoping to go through a block of just like training for speed after that, because God willing, everything goes right, I'm going to be in phenomenal shape.
Yeah. I didn't mention Boston. Is Boston something you want to get back to?
For sure. That's what I'm kind of eyeballing right now the Aspen Valley Marathon I told you about. That's in July. That looks like a fast course that I may want to give it a shot to PR. That'll be the main goal, is to PR. But yeah, Boston, qualifying for Boston would be great. And then being able to go, I think it'd be 2025, would be phenomenal, because I feel like there's still some unfinished business there with me qualifying for Boston. So those are the main things on my radar as far as running. That, and then of course MOAB. Then we'll come back to in November, and
that'll be interesting. Like, I guess from my standpoint, recovery time, like what will be from like what I'm doing to that. Because if everything kind of goes to plan, we would both be ridiculously fit for that race.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Like, I'd be a million times more fit than last year, and so would you. Which is crazy that you would. Placing where you placed, be better than that.
Yeah, I mean, me and you, we put in some really good work for that race.
What, MOAB?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
but I think I didn't start with like a really much of a base.
I started with no base.
Exactly. So kind of just like went into it. 3 months, something like that.
Yeah, that was the first time I ever, not really like prepped for something, but structurally prepped for something. Like, I had a plan that I had mapped out on my calendar, so I knew what every single week looked like leading up to it, and that felt different. Like, that felt good. In the past, I've kind of just been like, oh, I need to run this much this week. I need to run this much this week. But when you actually like run the runs, you just, I think that's why you asked. Like, I didn't feel super nervous going into it outside of my Achilles problem, because I just felt like, I think, Andy will kill me for quoting Nick Bear, but like Nick Bear always says, like, the hay's in the barn. It's like all the work's been done. Now you just need to do the race. I felt like I had done the work, so I just felt ready to run.
You definitely put in the work, and like, also I forgot to thank you because you're the one who told me about MOAB. You're like, hey, you want to run this with me? I'm going to run this race. You should do it.
Yeah, and thank you, Jared. Jared, you got 3 other people to run it.
So, and I'm so happy I did it. But yeah, dude, also your training and like your long runs and stuff and the things you're doing as far as like the vlogs you were doing, things like that kind of sparked a fire under my ass a lot of the times for the training too, because I didn't have any specific goals going into this race. So it was kind of hard for me to, really, really push in the training and like be super consistent. So seeing that you were really kind of like motivated me.
I think it was 2 sides of the coin, because when you started posting, and you come from a bit more running than I do, and I came from soccer. In soccer, I always thought I'd be fit, like running wise, and that's just not the case. But it was funny because I felt like you started after me, but immediately you were about 5 miles ahead of me all times, and it would be like, I ran 9 miles today at an 8:30 pace, and you look at mine, and it's like I ran 7 miles at a 12-minute pace, and I was like, I gotta get moving, dude. So it was like, I liked that you posted as well, because it made me feel like I needed to push. I felt like I'm here. Here's where I am. Here's where I need to be. And it was obviously proven when we ran the race. You destroyed. But like, yeah. So thank you, but also thank you.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Well, right on. So, how about you? As far as I know, you got one big one coming up this year that
Yeah,
I think you already kind of mentioned.
yeah.
But what is?
So my big goal, and I know it's lofty, because fucking everyone keeps telling me it's lofty, is Leadville 100. I heard about this race in like 2019 or 2020, and the second that I heard about it, I tried to sign up for it. I'd never run like a marathon race in my life, and some things didn't go my way in the past, and I just felt like I needed something, one, to beat my ass, but two, I needed something to like grind for, and that there just wasn't anything in my life at the time that I could really like shoot for. And I thought I would pick a really high target. So it didn't work out for me last year. I've already got my, ticket and everything set up for this upcoming year. So I'm in Leadville. I've got that August 17th. So what?
What? So what do you mean? You said people were saying that it's lofty.
Oh yeah.
What? Just doing Leadville or getting in or what?
Yeah. So that's been a really interesting situation for me because it's surprisingly been, and I don't want to name names, but I think you kind of find out the people that actually support you, and I think being honest is different than support. Like you can be honest with me. Like say I sign up for the race 3 months before. I understand how much work needs to go into that race.
Yeah.
Like I fully understand, and I'm not underestimating that. But like last year was a good example. The injuries that I had last year were ones that had built up over my career in college playing soccer that I didn't realize I had to the extent that I had until I started running and getting a lot of miles under, and they hammered me. I couldn't use my leg, my hip or knee for like 2 months.
Mm-hmm.
And then once I started like addressing those, I was able to, you know, actually like progress in my running. But it happened last year, and it's already happened a little bit this year. Um, there's like two things that people tend to do. One, you figure out like who actually supports you,
Mm-hmm.
and I realize you can be realistic or not realistic, and someone saying like, "Oh, you don't have enough time." Do you think you have enough time? That's different than being like, "What are you doing?" Like, dude, you're not gonna run. Like, and it's not. It's like a disrespectful thing. The way they mention it.
Why do people that say that? Why do they think you're not going to do that?
Well,
They just
the
don't.
people that it's gotten to me a little bit. It usually doesn't bother me because I like shit like that.
Yeah.
All that does is you're just adding wood to the fire stack. But there's been like, I want to say like three people who are fairly close to me, family or friends,
Mm-hmm.
that have like literally to my face been like, well, what are you gonna do when you don't finish that?
Oh my.
Yeah.
Dude, not to cut you off, but I love that you're doing Leadville, and because everybody knows about the Leadville 100, even people that aren't even that much like into running that much, like everybody, a lot of people in Colorado, I'll say, they know about the Leadville 100. They're like, the race is over there. So every time it gets mentioned, I'm always like, oh yeah, one of my buddies is running that. With the relay, when I talk about the relay and stuff, I've had a couple people that are like, oh, are you ever gonna do Leadville? Have you heard of Leadville? And that's not something that's on my radar, but I love to be like, oh no, my buddy's actually doing that this upcoming year. I'm excited for you, dude.
I talked the same way about your MS around the U.S. because, and I know like how people respond to that. They're like, "Oh man, that's awesome!" Like but that's like a support system that you feel like you have, and so it's really easy to identify like who those people are.
Yeah.
And then the people who low key don't support you are just kind of are just not there.
Yeah.
Like the second they hear it, it's not that they're disinterested. They're like, "Okay, well that's impossible."
Yeah.
But they do it in like a way that's demeaning.
Yeah.
And if they're really close to you, it just hits different.
Yeah.
Because at first you're angry, you're like, what? Like I don't understand. And then it's just, not only have they added like a block of fire to the stack or a block of wood to the stack, but they've thrown on like 15 pieces.
Yeah.
And I've learned to kind of love that and then just appreciate the friends that do support that idea.
Yeah.
Because it's like if I don't run it and I fail it, or if I run it and I fail it, I'm gonna feel so much better about. I'm gonna be really angry. I'm not gonna lie. It's gonna be really hard for me to swallow if that happens. But the fact that I tried to run it, I prepped, I tried everything I did, and then it didn't work out. I'm gonna go back next year.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's just I already have that in my mind. I would go back next year.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't doubt that I'm nervous about it. Yeah, 100% I'm nervous about it. But I don't doubt that I could or could not do it. Like I think I could do it. I wouldn't sign up for it if I didn't think I could do it.
Yeah.
And I'm willing to put the prep in for that. But that's been a really interesting thing for me to deal with, and maybe not something I've had to deal with in the past. Is like people blatantly being like, "What are you doing?" And then I think the other side of the coin is like people will, I don't know, like the Incline Monday stuff. It's different if you're like Incline Monday, man. But then I'll have some jackass come up to me and they're like, Incline Monday, dude, and they do it in a way that's like not supportive. It's demeaning.
Yeah.
And that can be really frustrating. And obviously, it's different when it's in person versus like online. But yeah, that I've gotten that all last year. It is frustrating, but I think I've gotten over it. I've gotten over it.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I'm signed up for Leadville. I'm super excited for it. I think a big thing for me is it's it's like a team thing too. Like you have to have a support system. Unless I think even if you're like the most elite runner ever, you've got to have people that support you or that are on your team. You know, aid stations. So I think one of the things I've tried to build out, talking to my parents, my family, and stuff like that, is making it an enjoyable experience for everyone that comes to support me as well. Like that's on my team that week and everything. So I'm really excited for that. But yeah, I just need something to work towards, and I'm looking for something. I know it sounds weird, but just to beat my ass.
Yeah.
Outside of that, I think I had expressed some interest in you. Obviously, maybe doing a chunk of your run with you, but also, I'm kind of interested in doing like a 24-hour relay, and I know there's options with doing it like one person, so there's two people.
Yeah.
So it could be like us, or there's an option to have like 4 people total.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a few of them. I think they're all on the like ranches and stuff. I think it's just like a 5K loop. So I'm kind of interested in doing one of those. But right now, I think I can't think about anything but Leadville like all the time.
For sure.
So if I go out on a Saturday night, I'm like, this is gonna fuck me over for tomorrow.
Nice.
Just can't.
Yeah.
But yeah, that and MOAB.
Dude, when I like look back at the best like months of my year and stuff like that, it's when I was training or like when I was in great shape and like when I am confident like in my fitness. And because like you just said like, oh, like no, that's gonna screw me up for like tomorrow and stuff like that. Like to me, I love that. I love like setting up for like those long runs, setting up for solid training weeks, and like not to a point where like it doesn't take up like your weekend or whatever, but like it feels good getting that stuff done. And like I don't know, just like looking back, like that's when I have the most energy. That's when I have like the most life. I feel like.
And it doesn't click with everyone. It didn't even click with me at first because I feel like when I was not the best runner, I was a worse runner. It was kind of miserable at first, but once you kind of get in the groove of things,
oh yeah,
I think people see it as, and it's I think we might talk about routines a little bit, but if you let it, it can kind of just take over your life and take over your whole day, and you're like, I'm not eating this today because it's going to affect this. But it gets to a point where you can like it's enjoyable. And people don't understand that it's enjoyable. Why are you waking up on Saturday? It's like, well, I get to see a sunset. You don't get to see it. Like, there's little things about it that are amazing. Like I'm going to be on top of a mountain at sunset while you're asleep. Like there's just like a bunch of little stuff that builds up to me where like 10 o'clock comes around, 10 a.m., you're done. You're finished. You feel accomplished. Start of your day. Like, I don't know. It's just a different type of feeling. It's hard to replicate.
Sunrise, right?
Yeah. Sunrise. I make that mistake all the time.
Well, yeah.
But yeah, that's sunset. I just did it again. Sunrise.
Yeah, no, that's a good one. Yeah, the sunrise, just like I think all the fresh air. One thing lately for me has been like patience, like because when you're running, a lot of miles. It takes up a lot of time, and if you're training right, you can't run every run as fast as you can. Obviously, it's hard for me to run slowly for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
And I start getting, I don't know, I start like freaking out in my mind. Like I need to finish this for like no reason really.
Or do you also have like the thought that maybe I'm not working hard enough? When if like
Yeah,
we're talking about zone
yeah,
work.
I think that's part of it too. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
One is like I'm like wasting a lot of time, kind of like because and I say wasting because I feel like that because I'm not like putting in that hard work because I'm making myself run slow.
Yeah.
So a lot of the time lately, I'm realizing that, so I'm just like, this is a good time to practice patience.
Just take a back seat.
Just take a back seat and enjoy the ride. Like just run slowly, feel good, and yeah, don't be in a rush.
I mean, that's runner's high.
Yeah.
If you get decent at running, not everything feels like it's just beating the crap out of you.
Yeah.
So you can kind of move on autopilot, but I think it allows you to take a back seat and maybe think about, if you're struggling with something, you can actually take a minute to think about it. That's unfiltered. So I've tried not to listen to music while I'm running. Like with my prep for MOAB, like none of my 20 plus runs were with music. So I would just try and literally think about anything that was going on, whether it's work or whatever, and like break it down. Think about it from a view that's not, you're not sitting in your house, you don't have TV on, this on, this on.
Yeah.
You kind of just get to think. There's no distractions.
You think about things that you 100% would not have thought about if you weren't out there. And like that is a huge thing that I get out of it too, is like having these thoughts and like these conversations with yourself.
Yeah.
Just from, zoning out while you're training is huge as far as like getting clarity. At the end of
that's
it.
a good word.
Yeah.
That's a good word.
A lot of like mental clarity, I would say, is just a huge thing. With I think why people that run.
Yeah. I think so. I had sent you some video the other day. It was like, so you're running on Saturday, you're running 20 miles. You're like, yes, I'm going to suffer. I'm going to enjoy it, or something like that. But I think while sometimes it can be miserable or suck, it can be such a break. Like, I know whenever I take breaks, and I had talked to a few people, and I think they were my clients that I was talking to about this. When I take breaks today, it's never a break. It's always like, I might be sitting on the couch, but I'm on my phone. I might be sitting on the couch, but I'm on my laptop. It's never like it'd be like sitting on your couch and not doing anything. So you just get to think. And I feel like running, if you get past the phase where it feels like, again, it's just beating the crap out of you, it literally is just, you're out in the middle of nowhere, you're trail running, it's cold, whatever. You get to look around. It's just outdoors, and you finally just get some time to just think. It's if it just feels like a break. Like, how often do you just get a break throughout your week?
Yeah. And it's not the same, at least I don't think, because me and you, we don't just run. We have lives inside of the gym. You're a full-time personal trainer. Like, we work out, lift weights, like absolutely love doing that. But you don't get the same thing doing that. Like as far as what you're talking about, like being out there on a trail, and just like slowing down. You get different things out of like weightlifting, I think, mentally, but it's not the same, even though both have physical activity.
Yeah, weightlifting to me feels more like a release.
Yeah,
like if I have
like
anger,
letting out tension.
Yeah, tension release. Running is more of just like a open space for my head, like my brain. I feel like I don't know that I'd be able to replicate that throughout the day. I'm not the best at meditating or something like that. So, and it's always at the end of your week too. That's what I like about Saturday. So like everything that goes on during your week, think about if you wanted to start a new job and you're kind of on the fence. You get to like sit back and like, man, look at my week. What do I think about my week? What do I like? What do I not like? Like, and that's just an example, but that has happened to me. Like I switched jobs, and running has helped a lot with that. So like one of my buddies, Paul, who's he's going to pace me for the back half of Leadville. And if you don't go through with it, Paul, just know I'm telling everyone you're going to do it. I don't let him wear headphones while he runs because I want him to get to that point where he can like reflect, gain some clarity on things or some troubles that are going on in his life, you know?
Yeah.
It's interesting. I mean, I think so many people are used to running with music.
Yeah.
And I hadn't thought about that until I had watched like a podcast with like, we don't run to music. And I think a big thing of it is it affects like your tempo of your run or like how many, like if you listen to, upbeat music, you're going to run faster and run out of your zone work. If you're trying to run in zone 2, you're probably going to run in zone like 4 or 5. You're just going to kick it. But I don't think that allows you to like think if you're listening to music.
Yeah. I like podcasts when I run. I'll usually do podcasts. Very rarely do I do music. And then when I race, I think the first marathon I ever did, I did with headphones on, and it was just a bad idea when like you're unaware of like people around you and stuff like that. 2, I was so freaking tired and dead at the end of it that like it was almost like the noise inside my ears was just like annoying, and I wanted it out.
I think that like a slight comment on that. I think sometimes music distracts you from what's going on in your legs.
Yeah.
And I think if you want to find some stuff out about yourself, dude, do a 20-mile run without any music on.
Yeah.
It's like if you're struggling, it's gonna amplify because the only thing in your head is yourself.
That's a good point.
So you're talking to yourself like, oh, I could stop this run right now. Like you're gonna find some stuff out about yourself.
Yeah.
If you do runs without headphones on.
Yeah.
Because you're just gonna be in your own head the whole time.
Yeah.
I think you can build some good like mental strength running without headphones.
For sure.
And I've heard people say that, but it's true. It's very true.
Yeah. I think I've rarely done that, but I think you're 100% right.
I didn't start doing that until
you find out if you like yourself or not.
All MOAB. All MOAB prep. I didn't wear headphones. I probably wore headphones like, I don't know, once or twice, but I tried not to. And so now it's kind of a thing that I think I just do moving forward. But yeah. You got any goals outside of like running for 2024?
Yeah. So I'm a big New Year's resolution dude. Which I know is like kind of unpopular, kind of,
I have a question on that.
Yeah, what's up?
So you had mentioned that to me before, and I don't think that's a bad thing, but if you're mentally strong, right? Like if you're mentally strong versus you're not mentally strong, some people need that date. Like some people need like the beginning of the year to start something.
Yeah.
And sometimes I'm gonna be like, why do you need it's just December 1st. Why do you have to wait to the beginning of the year to start something that you could start today? Because then you would be a month ahead of where you would be the 1st.
Yeah.
But I know like I have some people in mind that just like they want that date. Like that date has some like strong value.
Yeah.
But I just don't sometimes I don't understand.
So I'll say with that being said, all my New Year's resolutions have already begun. So like I'm not waiting for January 1st for things that I want to improve on or focus on. Like I'm not withholding from that because it's not January 1st yet. But I think with the new year, like once we got into December, I start thinking about 2024, and I'm like, I kind of get excited, and I'm like, what's this year gonna bring and stuff like that, and what do I want to focus on? Like, where is kind of like where's God leading my heart right now? And so I like reflecting on that kind of stuff and writing that stuff out, journaling that stuff out, and then really like coming up with like themes for the new year. And so like we talked about, like generosity is like a big one that like I want 2024 to be. I want to look back and be like, that's the most generous I've ever been in my life.
Yeah. Let's like close out our pod talking about this, because I think we could expand on this a little bit based on what we talked about.
Yeah. Yeah. So what do you want me to expand on about it?
So talk about, because I know, obviously we had discussed beforehand about what that means to you and what that means to me. Because I had talked about, you mentioned to me generosity, but for me, like my word would be intention, right? And I've been too generous with my time.
Yeah.
But generosity, like your goals with generosity, could be completely different or like have different meanings. So why don't you dive into like what that means for you for 2024?
Yeah. So I think I have realized the past like 6 to 8 months probably that I am a selfish person. And I feel like I'm a lot more selfish with my time and my money than I think. And I also recently just got married. So I think that kind of, when you get married, you start living with somebody and you're married with them, like, it's going to expose a lot of things about you that maybe you didn't even know, right? Because I moved here to Denver, I was living by myself, just living my own life, right? Like a lot of us are. And so you don't realize the things that you are selfish with, because you don't have anybody to really like consider. You don't have another person to consider as much and things like that. You have a lot of time to yourself. So that might be one thing that's kind of led me there or help me realize that. And I'm a Christian, so like generosity, like giving, is something that that should be a part of somebody's life. Like somebody should see that. Like Christians should be generous, So, and there's more to expand on that I'm not going to right now, but like we should all be generous because everything is given to us, nothing is ours. That's what I believe. So like as far as like with my money and with my time going into 2024, I want to be generous. I want to give rather than receive. And I want to see where that takes me, and I want to trust God with that, um, and yeah, whether that be helping others, devoting my time to others, like putting other people first before myself, and also just like with my money, tithing is something that me and my wife are like leaning into, which is not easy, and also like setting money aside that we're able to set this aside when we get paid, and being like this is gonna be for like giving, what, and like that's very broad. That can be for whatever we want it to mean, but having like money set aside to be like, hey, we're gonna use this for somebody else. It's not gonna be for us, somebody that can't pay us back or doesn't need to pay us back or whatever. So like that's something that like we're kind of being guided through, and I'm excited to see like how that's gonna play out, and what that's gonna bring us and how that's gonna like really like change the both of us, and because I think a lot of people like it runs people's lives, like everything's about money. People are stressed about money. People are motivated by money so much and stuff like that, and we we don't want that, like
Yeah.
I don't want my life to be all about money, and things like that. So I think it's more of a practice to be generous and not let money like take control of my life or my time. Um, so that's just kind of like something that's not it's not super clear. It's not like super put together, but it's something that me and my wife are kind of figuring out and seeing what that looks like, and we're excited about it. I know, like we know that. So that's going to be a big thing going into the new year for sure.
Nice, man.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go out here on the rip and say that you're not selfish. Like I feel like I know you, and maybe you viewing it in a different light makes you think that you're selfish, but you're not. Because I feel like if I think I had talked to you about generosity. I think I've been generous with my time, but in a way that, like, from an idea standpoint, like I support so many things that I fall apart. So I'm not having good intention, or I'm being too generous with my time, and it's not helping me or other people.
Right.
So I think you're not being selfish. I think if you spread yourself too thin, then you fall apart. I think you've
Mhm.
taken care of yourself, and I can tell you've taken care of yourself. So instead, you're just seeing it as, what value can I provide moving forward? So
Yeah.
I don't think you're selfish.
Okay.
Please don't think like you're a bad person. 'Cause you're
No.
not.
Yeah. And it's like that's not what I think. I'm like, oh man, I'm such a selfish person. Like I need to change, in this new year and like all that. It's more. It's a healthy conviction of like me realizing, oh, I'm a lot more selfish with, like little things that I realize, and
Mm-hmm.
um, oh, maybe this like drives me a little too much, or maybe this like kind of sways the way that I live or my mood a little too much. So like, how do I figure that out, kind of thing. So it's a healthy conviction. It's not like I'm like, oh, I hate people or anything like that, and like I just want to do my own thing and like not consider other people or anything like that. It's just something that, um generosity is just like I said, something that we're trying to really lean into, um, and yeah, yeah. I think that kind of sums it up for me as far as like the whole generosity in 2024. So I'm excited. I'm excited to lean more into that.
Yeah, it sounds like a good headspace to be
Yeah,
in.
I noticed like a lot the people that get the most out of life, like they give more than they receive.
It's a different feeling.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that goes hand in hand with like memories. Memories in the end is going to have way more value than a car will,
Yeah. Oh yeah.
and you have to go out of your way to create those.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just like anything, the race. The race
Mhm.
doesn't happen unless you go out of your way to go do the race.
Yeah.
But it's interesting.
Yeah. So what do you want to add to that? Yeah, I know you mentioned intention, and you talked about your time.
Yeah, I should probably take a step back. I don't feel like I've been generous with my time. I just feel like I haven't been smart with my time.
Mm.
Like I feel like I have, like, there are things that I should have done, and I'm happy that I did them. But there were so many probably times where I should have taken a step back and been like, if I do this, I'm gonna fall apart. And that's not. I don't feel like that should be me being selfish. It should just be me being like, I need to take care of myself, because if I don't take care of myself, I can't help other people as well. So, with that being said, like I think my word for this year is intention, with pretty much everything, with business, with my personal life, with my friends and family. It's just being intentional with what I'm doing and thinking things through a bit more. And I think last year, uh, change would probably be a good word, because so many things changed in my life from like every perspective. Finally got used to the place I was living in, kind of figured out a roadmap for the things that I want to do in life, so like fitness, personal training, etc. And it feels like I have a little bit of roadmap, but if I don't add intention to that and have some goals down and some steps to get to those goals and actually like have a plan, then I'm just going to be, throwing darts at, like, with my eyes closed.
Yeah.
Um,
Autopilot.
yeah.
That's my biggest fear.
Yeah.
Going into autopilot.
I don't want to be an autopilot. And I think memories is another thing. And I've talked to my buddy Paul about this. So if you listen to this, Paul, I'm proud of you. But like one of my few things that I'm leaning into, and it makes you look like a much better person than me, is that I'm trying to focus on myself this year in a way that, like, I need to focus on myself so that I can actually have a life that I think is worth something to me, not to other people. But like, I don't want the corporate job. I want to be able to actually try and make a living off of the things that I enjoy, which I've never tried to do in the past. And I would love to actually give it like a full go this year. And I've never given it a full go. So now that I kind of have an idea what that is, I'd really like to put my foot down on the gas pedal on some things that I would enjoy. One of those being the fitness world, personal training, and kind of diving into working more with people I've enjoyed. I did not think I would, but I've enjoyed being like face to face from a work environment rather than behind a desk. So selfishly, I think, my word this year is probably just having more intention with everything. But I brought up Paul because one of the things I'd like to do at the beginning of this year is try and encourage some other people to. I think I told you about this. Sign up for something hard.
Yeah.
And it's open to everyone, but I'd really like to follow like 10 people. And my buddy Paul, I worked with him, and I'm gonna help coach him, but he's gonna be my pacer after you. And I would not describe Paul as a super fit person, and Paul probably talks down on himself a lot, but I see a lot in Paul that Paul doesn't see in himself, right? So that's an opportunity for me to help build him up, but also create memories for the both of us to have forever. Like I would love for Paul to help. Paul was the guy I grew up with in the gym. Like he got me into everything, so I have to thank Paul for that. But I want to create memories in 2024. So instead of spending less time on my phone, less time on my laptop, less time behind a desk, I'd rather go figure out ways to go do stuff, whether that's camping or because I think that's the stuff that has value in the long run. So
Yeah.
But to do that kind of stuff, I have to have a lot of intention. I have to plan. I have to figure out how I can get there. So, yeah, I had just had this conversation with Paul the other day when I was talking to him about being my pacer, and I was like, I think if you don't do this, like this is an opportunity. I think you have to go out of your way to make those memories. Those memories, don't just happen. If you go on autopilot all the time,
Yeah.
then you're not gonna find the memories that are. I mean, you're gonna get memories, but they're not gonna be ones you want to tell stories about.
They're gonna be the memories where you're like, oh, I wish I would have been more present at that moment, or like really taken it. I wish I would have done this, And
Yeah.
But if you're locked in and you're like, you're working on being intentional every single day, every single moment or event, then you're not gonna have any regrets after, because you're gonna be present, you're gonna be there.
Yeah.
So that's really cool. And no, I think that's really cool too. How you're talking about like you want to be intentional and you want to be what'd you say, like with your time, you like almost want to be more selfish with your time.
Yeah, because I don't feel like the way that I used it in the past helps me or the other person.
Right. So I love that it's like kind of opposites, like what we're like a little bit like, different. Our goals are like we want our year to look like, but it's like neither are wrong. You know what I mean? Like we're just different different parts of life, different journeys.
Yeah, but I also feel like
you have
need to be intentional with the way that
for sure
you're generous, and
Yeah.
I have to be.
Yeah.
There's certainly like more.
It's not
room
like you're
for
like,
me
oh,
to
this
be-
is gonna be all about me kind of thing. Like,
Yeah.
it's not a selfish way. You have good self awareness. You're like, oh, for me to be more present, for others and for your own sake.
Yeah.
You got to be like, less, just kind of doing things and not really having like a thought out like conversation with yourself about these things. It's more just like, okay, what's gonna elevate my life and like match up with my goals and stuff like that, and like all the way down to like the small decisions of your days. So I think that's cool, and like a really good thing to be self-aware about and like focus on.
Yeah.
So good for you.
But yeah, I just think like that end of that conversation was so good because I think maybe one of the things that pushed him over the edge for actually wanting to go through with it was there's an opportunity for him for himself to get fit,
Yeah.
But in the end, like if you really think about it, like if you're in that moment and say I do my race and everything goes through with it, like he'd be upset if he wasn't my pacer because he was like I would have remembered that forever. Like if I had the opportunity to run with you for run the MS and I was like, no, I'm not gonna do that.
Yeah.
Right. Like that memory that could happen.
Yeah.
Could be amazing, and it would just never happen.
Oh yeah.
And if you actually like take a second and think about that, it just makes you want to do it like immediately. You go, yeah, I'm in. Let's do it.
Yeah.
So the more I think about it, the more I just want to try and put myself in opportunities to create. I think that's where I am.
That's cool.
That's where I am with my friends and the people that I enjoy being around.
Yeah, that's awesome. a lot of like the best memories are like shared.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, I think we kind of hit on everything we wanted to hit on.
I hope we weren't shit. I don't know. We're definitely going to go back and listen to like, oh man, I shouldn't have said that, or why did I say it? But anyway.
Yeah.
Happy we got one out of the way. I don't want to say out of the way, but I'm happy we got one in the books.
Stick with us, people. Yeah. Fishing.
I'm going to get better at talking.
First podcast.
I'm not that good at talking or elaborating on my thoughts. Same. So I'm sorry if I was an idiot, but we'll get better. We're going to try and be consistent, but we appreciate y'all.
Yeah.
If you're still here.
Yeah. Thanks for listening. Yeah. Hopefully it's not just my wife listening to it.
She's like, oh, I've already heard it in the other room.
Yeah.
But we appreciate y'all. That's podcast number 1 done. See y'all later.
We'll see ya.